Jill Wright, and I'm a facilitator with Our Community Listens in Charleston, South Carolina. When you think back to the beginning of your relationship with your partner, you may think about the things that originally attracted you to each other. He may have been really entertaining, never a shortage of conversation, and always quick with a story. Or she may have been really good at cutting through all the fluff and getting to the heart of the matter, telling you exactly what you needed to do to fix the problem. It's likely that you were attracted to these behaviors because they were very different from your own. And it's also possible that over time, these differences have actually become a source of annoyance and arguments between the two of you. Why does he always feel like he has to entertain everyone with stories? I've heard them all already. Or why is she always telling me what to do? Sometimes I just don't want to talk things through. Well, today we're going to briefly review the concept of behavioral tendencies. And we'll talk about these tendencies and behaviors in terms of asking and telling, and then people orientation versus task orientation. And finally, we'll talk about why this matters. So, beginning with behavioral tendencies, we all have ways that we naturally tend to behave in situations and with people. These are the things we do that come very easily for us. We don't have to think about them, they don't require much effort. They may be asking a lot of questions to get the information we need. These behaviors might be taking decisive action to move a plan or a project forward. It might be making sure that everyone in the family has had a say in what we do as a family on our family vacation. Or it could be getting our friends and neighbors together for the big game on Saturday night. These are all types of behaviors, and we all do different things naturally. Some things come more naturally to us than others. They're not good or bad, they're just the way we tend to behave, and they may be very different from the way that our partner tends to behave. If we're not aware of these differences, it can lead to misunderstanding, resentment, or even disconnection. So let's look at these behaviors and think about them in two ways. One is asking versus telling, and the other is people oriented versus task oriented. Starting with askers and tellers, askers tend to ask a lot of questions. They need to gather a lot of information. They need to process that information internally. They may be very reserved or passive, and they may speak in very qualitative terms. As opposed to tellers that are much more direct in their speech, they are much more free to tell their opinions, their stories, their plans. They tend to think and process out loud. They're more assertive or outspoken, and they tend to speak in more declarative terms. So, an example of asking versus telling in my own relationship with my husband, we laugh at the adage of that it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. I laugh because that's never made sense to me. I always ask for permission because I am an asker. I'm a rule follower. I want to make sure that I'm doing things right and that I'm doing things correctly. My husband, on the other hand, is more of a teller. He would rather move forward, make the decision, charge ahead, and beg for forgiveness later. In fact, he jokes that rules are for people who can't make good decisions on their own. Now, hopefully, you can see that these two different perspectives could lead to a lot of misunderstanding. So, my husband may look at my asking behaviors and think that I don't ever want to have any fun and that my need to follow the rules makes it so that I can't make my own decisions. Or I may look at my husband's telling behaviors and think that he's being very inconsiderate or never thinks about the consequences or the impact of his actions on other people. The reality is that we just approach situations differently. Let's look at another example of a teller and an asker. A teller may come home from work and say, I ate at this new restaurant for lunch and I thought it was the best place. It was so good. I went ahead and made reservations for us on Saturday night for our date night. Their asker partner may say, that's funny because I ate at a restaurant today too that I thought was really good. I thought you might like it. And I was going to ask you if we might consider eating there on our date night this Friday. Again, very different perspectives and behaviors in talking about this new restaurant that can lead to some hurt feelings. You may think of the teller as she's always making plans for us. She didn't even ask if I wanted to go to this new restaurant. She just decided for me. And you may think of the asker as he never takes charge. If he has a new restaurant he wants to try, he needs to make the plans and do it. The reality is that each person is trying to share their excitement about this new restaurant with their partner, and they're doing it in a way that comes most naturally to them. So we've talked about asking versus telling. Now let's look at people orientation versus task orientation. Folks who are people oriented are concerned about what others think. They want everyone to feel included and heard. They want everybody to have a good time. They're often looked at as being very warm and welcoming. Folks who are more task oriented, on the other hand, tend to be focused on getting things done. Some are more focused on getting things done right. They're checking off their list. They're much more logical and rational, and they may not be perceived as having a whole lot of emotion. Let's look at a rainy Saturday morning with a task oriented and a people oriented person. The task oriented person may say, you know what, it's so nasty and rainy outside. This is the perfect day for us to finish that bathroom project. I'm going to grab the kids, run to the hardware store, get the supplies, and come back so we can get started. Their people oriented partner may say, you know, I was thinking this was a perfect day for us just to snuggle up as a family, play some board games, and maybe invite the neighbors over for chili later. Again, very different perspectives on how the day should be spent. The more task oriented person may look at the people oriented reaction and think, you know, she's been wanting to get these projects done forever. I'm helping her out by making a plan, taking care of the kids, getting the supplies, and all she wants to do is lay around all day. Whereas the people oriented person looks at the task oriented plan and thinks, you know, he always needs to be doing something. Why can't he just enjoy some downtime with the family? It's like he doesn't even want to spend time with us. The reality is that both have different perspectives on how to spend the day and how to serve their partner or their family. Another example of the people versus task orientation is in my own relationship with my husband. We annually hold a New Year's party a couple days after New Year to get the year started off. And my husband always starts the ball rolling by thinking through our invitation list, going through all the folks that we've invited in the past, thinking through all the new people we've met during the year, adding them to the list, designing the evite, and sending it out. I, on the other hand, am more task focused. So I focus on the timeline of when are we going to get things done? What's the menu going to be? Making all of the food, making the drinks, thinking through the activities for the families that will be there. Generally, this happens really naturally for us and we don't have a lot of conflict. But occasionally, there can be some ruffled feathers. My people oriented husband could look at all of the work he's doing in creating the invite list and all the people he's inviting and think, why is Jill not more excited about all of the effort that I'm making to make sure that we get together with all of these people that we know and care about? I, from a task oriented perspective, can look at the work and think, you know, I'm thinking through all of the details for this party, planning all of the food, and all he's doing is sending out an evite. And in fact, he keeps sending it out. And if he keeps inviting everyone we know, I'm never going to have an accurate. If we don't have an accurate count, we might not have enough food and we might not have enough space for everyone who's coming. The reality is that we each bring something different to our party planning process. And together we have all of the bases covered. So when we think about our own behavior and our partner's behavior in terms of asking versus telling and people oriented versus task oriented, it gives us new perspective to build better understanding for our partner and hopefully lead to better communication. And this matters. When we're more aware of the differences and the different ways in which we behave, it gives us this new lens to view our partner's behavior. They're not necessarily trying to annoy us or do things to spite us. They just see things differently. And when we have this awareness, it allows us to make more informed choices. We can choose not to take the behavior personally. And when we find ourselves getting a little annoyed, we can pause, consider the behavior, try to choose to appreciate what our partner is bringing to the table, and try not to assume that their intention is to annoy us or to bother us. This does take effort because we can't just react anymore. We have to pause and respond. But this effort can be very well worth it. It can help us build better connection, deepen our appreciation of each other, and strengthen the relationship that we have. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to connecting again with you soon.